All right, well, we just saw the Wes Anderson movie, Grand Budapest Hotel. Just to give you our kind of quick overview, whether we liked it or not, who should see it, who probably won't like it. We'll do that very quickly and then kind of discuss the movie a little bit more. It was good. It was very much a Wes Anderson movie. It's what you'd come to expect. If you're a fan of his movies, you'll probably like it. If you don't care for his movies, you probably will not like it. And if you're one of those people that he's kind of hit or miss for you, I think this is one of the better ones of his movies. The tone's very light. There are a couple of violent scenes, which I would say it's kind of unfortunate, a little bit further than it really needed to go in some cases, but not...
You don't really see the violence a lot. It's more like it implied that it happened. You see the result of it.
Yeah, but it's nothing like what you see in like the Royal Tenenbaums where, people are slitting their wrists and things like that. So there's not like a huge, like, ridiculous amount of violence. There's just more than I expected. It's good. It's a pretty much a comedy, and it really leads you along by the nose. There's not a whole lot of plot to speak of, just a lot of characterization, a lot of set design, a lot of sort of trademark Wes Anderson. Everybody's got special talents and they all talk in that sort of way and are very affected. But overall, I thought it was good. It's a movie that I don't know that it would be better or worse at home versus seeing it in the theater. But I enjoyed it. What did you think?
I think just from the walk from the theater back to the car, I seem to be the one mild dissenter here. I'm not going to say that I liked it, but I'm not going to say that I didn't like it. The comment that I made was that I just spent 100 minutes just watching something happen. And I don't know enough about his directing, but apparently that's the thing.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. So the impression that I got was it's more of a character piece. There is this plot. There are these things happening, but I thought it was more of a character piece. In fact, the three movies kept going through my mind about what I felt this was like. One was Empire State, one was Napoleon Dynamite, and the third was the Darjeeling Limited. Mm-hmm. Like it's the story, it's the people. It's not the story that's going on because there's little story going on. It's just a backdrop.
Yeah.
Now there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I guess I didn't know what I was in for, and I got about that.
Yeah. But were you bored?
Oh no.
See,
I mean, it was very pretty at times, and I was trying to think as.
I think that's the distinction. Like what I was saying was that Wes Anderson and movies like this, they lead you along at just this blazing pace, and they keep throwing stuff in front of your eyes, and they keep changing what's going on, and they keep moving it forward. But it's not a movie that is densely packed with plot. It's densely packed with business. There's just stuff going on. So it's not like, it's not like you're just watching a really boring mystery or you're watching a really boring, dry kind of story. So
no, it was keeping my attention. Parts of it were very good looking. I was trying to think, well, would I see this do I have to see this in the theater or can I see it at home? I think the only thing that you might be missing if you watched it at home was there's a couple of shots here and there where you get the sensation of big. Mm-hmm. So I think you might miss that, but that's only here or there.
Yeah.
So other than that, I don't see a real reason to see it in the theater, but
yeah. What about you?
Yeah. Several kind of random thoughts. If you were to explain the plot to someone, it's very, very thin. But it's really about the people, the characters, especially Ralph Fiennes. I thought was amazing. His role, he just kind of kept it very interesting. Visually, I was never bored with the way it's presented. Like a lot of his movies, it's very centered. Every shot is kind of feels like it was handcrafted. Mm-hmm. I like some of the camera movements. Very simple, but very Just it suits what they're trying to tell, the style. It's shot in 4:3, so it's more of a square aspect ratio than widescreen. That's interesting these days too, because it's unusual.
It makes it look like an older movie.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I thought that same thing. Yeah.
It's so it's quirky. I thought it was a romp, a caper, a bit of a farce. But on purpose, you know, like so much of the comedy was visual for me. Like when the guy's skiing and they're following after him on a sled, like the animation is just like, it's funny.
Yeah, it's unquestionably a farce, and
really
that's
quirky.
why, like I said with the violence, like they kept it fairly cartoonish and fairly, you know, light, where something terrible would happen and they would just cut to the next scene.
Yeah.
And most of the audience kind of laughs at it.
A lot of tongue in cheek.
So yeah, I think generally we're giving it a favorable review. You know, it's probably, you know, you're either a fan of Wes Anderson or you're not, and you're probably going to see this or not. To get into a little bit more detail, a lot of the criticism that I've seen, and this movie's been out for a while. It just opened in Kansas City because it's just now in wide release, but it's been open for a couple of weeks other places, and reviews that I've seen of it that have been critical have been about how they just throw way too many characters in for the sake of throwing in characters. And I think that's true of a lot of Wes Anderson movies. Like I think Moonrise Kingdom had a lot of, it just seemed like they kept introducing you to characters and it kept sort of going off the rails. But this, I didn't feel like had that problem. I thought that the setting of, you know, these different hotels, and there was sort of a reason why there needed to be a different person every once in a while, or there needed to be a character that was introduced for a minute and gone again. I felt like the movie was very squarely about Ralph Fiennes' character and the lobby boy character, and
I did think there were one or two, it seemed like cameo for cameo's sake. I mean, you were saying that there's this typical influx of characters, and I didn't notice that all up until the end where we go through the series of concierges and all that. It's like, okay,
right.
Again, here it is again. And most of them, aside from the Bill Murray character, it was just that one little bit, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Bill Murray, though, I mean, he had 2 scenes instead of just 1.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a huge deal. It wasn't like in something like, you know, Moonrise Kingdom comes to mind as just one that, like, Jason Schwartzman just kind of shows up like in the 3rd act of that movie and is part of the movie then, and they make a big deal about it. And I thought this did a better job of just, they would give somebody a cameo, they would have a line, and that was it. It wasn't like drug out or it didn't put the whole story on hold.
Oh yeah.
That they pulled these people out there. It also didn't suffer from like the Monuments Men syndrome, which is, we don't know anything about any of the main characters. They just all sort of get together, and then we're cutting between all these different storylines. There's one storyline. It's very farcical. It's very silly. Not very much of the movie takes place in the hotel itself, which I was kind of surprised by, but I liked that. I thought they did a good job of doing that. It's sort of like a fake or a shadow version of Eastern Europe during like the 30s and 40s.
And I like the way that when the few things that were in the hotel is like half of it was the, I guess I'll say present, although it wasn't really present. It was when he was thinking about writing the book, and then half of it was back in the 30s. When
Ralph Fiennes was there, it was in the 30s, and then when it was F. Murray Abraham and Jude Law, that was like supposed to be 1968, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Something interesting I thought was about just the mood of it all was like obviously very tongue-in-cheek, lots of comedy, if dark comedy. And then towards the end, there was this moment of like this real kind of gravity. Like the F. Murray Abraham guy, you kind of really felt for him. He's pouring out his whole story here, and it got kind of serious, but it didn't feel unnatural. We'd just seen all this crazy stuff, and then it just kind of felt like it was a cool way to wrap it up. And as much as the movie began a certain way, it wrapped it up neatly and ended it that way too.
Yeah, they frame the story with F. Murray Abraham is the the older version of the lobby boy character, and he's recounting the events of the movie to Jude Law, who's an author who grows up to become, was it Tom Wilkerson, I think, at the end?
Yeah.
And so it sort of starts kind of strangely, where it's like there's a framing device, and then there's another framing device, and then the movie starts.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's interesting because the style, and this I think was, you know, this is something they did on purpose, but when you're watching F. Murray Abraham's story with Ralph Fiennes and the lobby boy, and the majority of the running time of the film, it has that otherworldly, fantastical, you know, all the sets are pastels, and everything's sort of a little bit over the top and farcical and beautiful and all of that. When you're in the framing scenes with F. Murray Abraham and Jude Law, everything's more realistic.
Yeah.
You know, things are in disrepair, that sort of thing. So it gives you this sort of, like F. Murray Abraham is like embellishing it, or Jude Law is interpreting it
absolutely.
as,
In fact, there were a couple of times I was thinking, how much of this is actually true at all? It could be one of those things that, I just made it all up.
yeah,
And it's for then it's for the movie viewer to decide, how much of this was. I mean, clearly all of that could not have happened the way that it was presented. But I guess this is one of those cases where, you can kind of decide how much was embellished, how much was not, and just go from there.
yeah, and I think it worked really well. I liked that, the further back in time you go, the less realistic things are. It's sort of more hazy. More of a hazy memory, or more of a nostalgic kind of way of looking at things.
So it's a film about a book, about a story, about a life.
Right. I also liked that they would start talking in sort of fanciful prose about something, and then they would just
Screw it.
stop.
Yep.
They were just like, either it would get interrupted and be like, we'll get back to that in a minute, but we got to actually do something.
People talk like that.
Right. And it was just, I thought that was really funny that was kind of a running joke where, Ralph Fiennes would start he'd start telling poetry at his speech, and he'd get a minute into it and people would just start eating their food, ignoring him. Or, he'd start saying something really, deep and philosophical, and I'd be like, screw it.
Whatever.
Yep.
So I thought it was cool. It was a fun little film. Definitely go see it if you're a Wes Anderson a fan. And as far as just a general kind of old fashioned type of movie, it was good. It was engaging. It was.
It's just not about much, but it's fun.
It's not about much. I won't be able to describe very much of it. It's
me either.
It's
so much of it's visual. You got to see it. It's told well visually.
Yeah.
There, when I looked on IMDb, there wasn't much of a plot synopsis, and now I know why.
There isn't much of a plot, and
Now that's not bad, because that's not the point of the movie.
It's just
that's the thing. It's you won't be disappointed that there isn't more to it. It's just one of those things where you'll watch it and you'll like it, and
it's like a Scooby-Doo plot.
You may you may want to watch it again at some point.
I kind of do, actually.
But you'll be sort of hard pressed to, a week from now, I'll be hard pressed to remember much of anything that happened in it. It's just one of those kind of strange.
It sucks you in while you're watching it, though.
So strange sort of
there
things.
There are a couple of things that I would like a second viewing for, just to kind of to link some things together. Oh, that's how this happened. Oh, yeah, now I'm recalling.
I'm going back with Nate.
No, no. I'm
going to be doing this again at 10:45.
I'm sure
there's a lot of people.
I'm
that want to
sure
see
in a
this.
month or two, when it's overanalyzed on Wikipedia and IMDb, then that'll start filling in. Oh, I remember that. I'm sure there were some visual things that would carry over, I remember that from the first time of viewing. So, I don't know. I think I can wait till Netflix to straighten some of those things out.
Oh sure. Yeah, and it won't be long. It's like I said, it just now open and wide release. It'll probably be out on video in the summertime, and you can check it out. And till then, there's he's got other great films, Moonrise Kingdom, and Fabulous Mr. Fox and all that kind of stuff. So there's certainly no lack of good Wes Anderson movies. He makes good stuff. I thought this was a fairly ambitious film for him, even more so than Moonrise Kingdom was. Lots of uses of miniatures, lots of really elaborate set design, set dressing, just sort of creating a whole pastiche of, you know, an unreal version of 1930s Eastern Europe. So
yeah, if I can say one last thing is, it's one of those movies, like a lot of his films, that it creates a world and you just kind of get into that world, and there's nothing that jumps out too jarringly about, oh, that doesn't fit that world. It all fits as you watch it. It seems to make sense. It creates its own little world. I like films like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.
Bye.